Welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kennedy. And as always, I'm joined by my co hosts, Josh Cox, Scott Medlin, Jamie Holt, and of course, producer Justin Sykes. And we keep our winning ways going, guys. Duke is 3-0 for the second consecutive season. That's the first time since 2018 that a Duke team has gone 2 seasons in a row starting at 3-0. And of course, we'd like to thank our huge sponsor, Comfort Mechanical Contractors, for all your premier HVAC needs. Thank you, as always, to them for sponsoring our Section 17 podcast. But as I stated, Duke Blue Devils continue their winning ways with a huge 38-14 win over, I guess, the usual opponent, the Northwestern Wildcats, seeing as Duke's played them now 3 years in a row. But before we give our comments on the game, we've got to hear from the man himself. Here's Mike Elko post-game after the big win.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a lot of respect for Northwestern, and those kids are going through a really, really challenging season, and they continue to come out and fight. They continue to come out and represent that university the right way. There's a lot of really good men on that coaching staff, and so, just hats off for those guys for continuing to play the game the way they're capable of doing it. Told our guys in the locker room, proud of the way we played. I thought we wanted to kind of establish our physical identity. I think anytime you play a Big Ten team, that's really, really important to make sure that you control the line of scrimmage. We were able to outrush them 268 to 104. Both of our running backs had over 6 yards per carry. I think when you have stat lines like that, you're going to have really successful days. I thought we started fast. We got a lead. That's what you want to do in games like this for sure. I thought we maybe hit a little bit of a lull on defense on that drive. Could have made a couple plays to get off the field. They hit a little bit of a rub route on us right before halftime and got a score. And so challenged the guys in the locker room to come out and finish this thing in the third quarter, and we certainly did that. I thought we put some really good drives together on both sides of the ball in the second half to start, and then we were able to kind of empty the bench at the end and get a lot of guys in there and get them a lot of opportunity and some quality snaps. And so, it was a good day. It was a good win. It was a good win for us going to 3-0, and so happy with the way we played today. So.
And again, that was head coach Mike Elko giving his thoughts after the big 38-14 win over the Northwestern Wildcats. And guys, as I stated in the opener, this is the second consecutive season under head coach Mike Elko that the team has started at least 3-0, not something we've seen since 2017 and 2018. Overall thoughts, this was one of those games that we thought preseason could be one of those trap games. But obviously, with everything that had happened with Northwestern leading up to the start of the season, I think our confidence got a little bit better as the game got closer.
Yeah, I mean, this was a methodical, some would even say kind of a boring almost victory for Duke. 5 rushing touchdowns. You saw Jordan Waters with another multiple touchdown game. Riley Leonard with a couple of rushing touchdowns. You had a first career rushing touchdown for running back Peyton Jones. Shout out to Peyton, who, by the way, we will be interviewing later on this season for the Durham Devils Club. And so just a shout out to them, DurhamDevilsClub.com. But Peyton Jones will be on there later on this season, and true freshman. You'll hear a lot about that, but an awesome guy, and got his first career touchdown. So I love that. And then, obviously a Big Ten opponent, guys. I understand where Northwestern is. I get it that they're kind of in the bottom of the Big Ten. They're really struggling with everything that's going on in that program. But at the end of the day, it is a Big Ten opponent. And for Duke to go out there and not just win that game, but really dominate that game from the very beginning all the way through to the end. For Henry Beelan to be able to come in and play the majority of the fourth quarter, it seemed like, for Duke to really get into that 2 and 3 deep on the roster was really good. It's the second week in a row Duke's kind of been able to take that fourth quarter and get some guys in there and then rest some of our starters. So overall, really, really good. And looking forward to trying not to look ahead to Notre Dame, which I'm sure we're going to mention a little bit. But looking forward to this weekend at UConn.
Yeah, it was definitely like Josh said. There was moments in the game where you felt like, you know, it's kind of boring. Ground and pound basically was the name of the game. But it's interesting to watch a Duke team who physicality before the last 2 seasons, people would have laughed and thought there's no way Duke's going to be physical and be able to manhandle a Big Ten team. And that's 2 years in a row they've dominated the Northwestern offensive and defensive line. And that says a lot about the program. It says a lot about what Coach Elko is trying to get these guys to do. And, Riley Leonard's passing numbers are not phenomenal, but his rushing numbers are good. And Riley Leonard is not getting caught making bad decisions. We ended up giving the offensive line gave up 2 sacks back to back at the end of the first half. One, the guy just got past, I think it was Graham, and Riley he was right in the middle, had nowhere else he could go, and took the sack. And then Henry, I guess they were going to throw a Hail Mary. Henry did the same thing, kind of stepped up into the pocket right into the guy. So, other than that, the physicality part is great to see Duke football going out there every week and pushing people around. And it's hard to believe that in the 3 games, they basically have dominated from the moment the ball got kicked off to the moment that last whistle blew. And that's what we've been hoping for our Duke football team to be doing. And it's been fun to watch the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're being honest, this game was over from the kickoff. Like, Northwestern lost when they rolled out to the kickoff, and I guess they got the ball first, and our defense came out and was able to get, I believe it was a 3-and-out right away, and we were on the field, scored a touchdown, and the route was pretty much on. I know it was 17-7 at halftime, which is, still a game technically, but Duke come right out in the second half, scored, made it 24-7. Next thing you know, it's 38-7, and Northwestern gets a junk touchdown, of course, at the end. But that was just pure domination. You love to see it. You love to see it from this Duke team. You love to see the defense continue to dominate. And they didn't get the touchdown really until the starters were out, that last touchdown. So I still say our starters have only given up the 1 touchdown in each game. So just all in all, a great performance and kind of what we all expected, I think, because we all predicted blowouts, I believe, in the previous week. So
yeah, I was actually closest, 38-17.
Can you wait till the predictions part? My goodness.
If you would have been first, the first thing came out of your mouth after the intro would have been, I was the closest.
Yeah, true.
I'm taking my opportunity when I get a chance. So thank you very much.
And I have some stats for you fellas, because I like to bring some stats to the table for all the fans. So with the win, Duke now has won 5 straight against Northwestern. That is the longest streak since 1985 to 1990, where the Blue Devils won 6 straight against the Wildcats. It was the largest margin of victory against the Wildcats since 2017, when Duke won 41-17. This one's the most impressive. Mike Elko's 12-4 record is the best record through the first 16 games of any ACC coach who has taken over a program. ACC history, fellas, not just in a certain time span, in history. So kudos to Coach on that. And of course, 4th straight game, Duke has won the turnover battle, which has become a common theme. We saw a lot of it last year. Good to see it already this year. So from the bowl game to now, 4 straight, probably going to see more of that against UConn. But again, to echo what the guy said, this was just one of those games to where every facet of the team, whether it be the offense, the defense, the special teams, Charlie Ham wasn't even in the game, and his replacement kicker was kicking the bombs just as good. Porter Wilson, I think, isn't he leading all punters across the nation in punting efficiency?
Yeah, like 50.4 net yards or something, I think I saw.
Yeah, so get that man ready to be playing on Sundays. He is going to be a big weapon for some NFL team, maybe the Denver Broncos or the Carolina Panthers, fellas, maybe.
They do a lot of punting. They do a lot of punting.
Listen, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
He would get a lot of work for sure.
I wouldn't even be a general manager for the Broncos, but anyway.
Yeah, so I equate it to this. This is just more momentum building up until that September 30th matchup, which we're not going to talk about a lot this episode, but with the UConn game, we thought it was going to be a trap game coming up, but they've had some issues as well. So everything's just falling in place for this Duke team to head back to Wallace Wade on September 30th to have a huge matchup against the Irish.
It still could be a trap game. I mean, we got to be careful.
Right.
We got to be careful.
You're right. First away game of the year, Josh.
Yeah, we can't talk about this Northwestern game without mentioning 2 players on the defensive side of the football. The first one, true freshman Kendall Johnson. Is that
Yep.
right? First career sack, really looked good there at linebacker, and then also second week in a row, Miles Jones with an interception. And so he's really stepped up his game. So just wanted to mention those two guys. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he was co-offensive player of the week for the coaching staff, and that was Nicky Dalmolin. Not only did he have, I believe, 4 catches or something like that, but I mean, a couple of those big runs. If you look back at it, I mean, Nicky really sealed his guy off, and like uh, Coach Elko mentioned in his presser on Monday, that Nicky really got that award, not necessarily for the receiving yardage and the number of catches, but for the way he blocked. And I was talking to someone after the game about Nicky, and I was like, we all wish he got more looks in the passing game, but at the end of the day, what's going to help that guy get paid on the next level is going to be if he can block. And so I thought that was really neat. Got to give him a shout out because it was a heck of a game.
Yeah, he was 3 for 37, but I mean, those yards counted when it mattered. Riley Leonard, again, he got sacked, as Jamie was saying it, or Scott was saying it, the first time this season, 2 sacks. But hey, it was going to happen sooner or later. I mean, it's football. You can expect the quarterback to go down at some point. Football. But he's still making those good decisions. He's throwing the ball away when he's getting chased. He's not trying to do too much. Maybe like he did last year. There were some times last year in 2022 to where we were like, stop, slide, get down, and he would try to do too much. But again, kudos to Riley. His mentality, his IQ on the field has definitely grown from last year to this year. Scott,
He was 15 of 20.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about the last 2 games. He's only incompleted 5 passes. I mean, think about that, and it's perfect how, especially now. Granted, I had a little bit higher view than y'all did. You could see the patterns opening. Yes, the wine and cheese. That's my chicken and waffles.
Your chicken tenders?
No, they weren't tender. Anyway, popcorn and cookie was great. So
chicken nuggets.
But up there where we were sitting, you could see the plays opening up. You could see Nicky get open. You could see Calhoun. You could see those guys just sitting right down perfectly in the middle of the zone to catch the football. And then the one catch that Jalen had where he dove.
That was stout.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
I was going to mention that, Scott. So one of the things we've spoken about, I'm not sure if it made it onto the podcast, but I know we've spoken about it at least offline, is, we really want to see Duke throw the ball down the field. They haven't had to yet, but that pass to Jalen was about as downfield as they've gone, and Jalen was in the slot there. I believe Jomo was on the outside. Jalen was in the slot there and just beat his man. And, I mean, number one, it was a perfect pass. Like, you could not have thrown a better pass, and then it was a heck of a catch on the other end of that. And so, I know we haven't seen a large sample size of those throws at 25 yards or further, 20 yards or further, but that was a small sample size, and that looked really, really impressive.
All right. Well, this is typically the part of the podcast where we interview someone to discuss our upcoming opponent, but unfortunately, everyone that we tried to get, it fell through. Hey, it happens, but that means you get
it
more.
Happens.
What happens, Josh? Yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
Instead of talking to play-by-play from UConn, we actually tried to get a famous UConn alum. Didn't happen. But we do want to give a shout out to Durham Devils Club. They actually help us with some of these interviews, which is really cool. But Brian, let's talk a little bit about Durham Devils Club. What we just released a podcast behind the blue and white level and above paywall. Talk a little bit about that interview.
Yeah, for $25 or more with your donation or subscription to the Durham Devils Club, you get to hear interviews such as the Dwayne Carter interview that we had last week. Dwayne was such a good sport with some of the stuff we threw at him. A lot of personal questions. If you want to hear what he had to say about all those, plus his time at Duke, you've got to subscribe. Again, the blue and white tiers, $25 and above will get you that access. And this week, we're interviewing offensive lineman Graham Barton. We're going to have some fun with Graham. He doesn't know what's coming, but it's going to be always a good time. And if you do subscribe, you get a free Lock the Gate t-shirt, as well as other premium perks for being a subscriber to the Durham Devils Club. Josh?
For sure. And this is the NIL arm of Duke football. And let us encourage you to get involved. Duke cannot fall behind in the NIL space. And so want to give a shout out to the Durham Devils Club for all they're doing. and appreciate all they do to help us. We're excited to be able to bring you some behind the scenes footage and interviews. Graham Barton is a guy that you don't really get to hear a lot from, but he's got a lot of wisdom and insight to the game of football that I think you're really going to enjoy. And I say that before we even interview him. I just know what it's going to be. So that may release. Honestly, that interview may get held for a week or two. But just keep your eyes open. If you're a subscriber, your email will hit. And if you're not a subscriber, become a subscriber. And as soon as it hits, you'll get an email. There's also some behind the scenes footage. Coach Elko this morning actually recorded a video strictly for Durham Devils Club members. And it was about a 2-minute video sent directly to them. And so that all of those things come with your subscription and you becoming a member. And so we want to encourage you to do that. Thanks again to the Durham Devils Club.
All right, so no interview, so that means more time for the mailbag question. So I'm not going to complain any this week. Thanks to each and every one of you for submitting your questions for this week's game. Jamie, I know that you sifted through all the questions. What do you have for us for this week?
There's a lot.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. There's a lot.
Hey, and we got plenty of time to answer each and every one of them. So you go right ahead with the first one.
So I'm gonna start with Twitter. So cry Facebook. I think I did Twitter twice in a row, or X, whatever Elon wants to call it. Peter Dodge, our friend, always good to see Peter. Who decides?
My favorite grandpa.
Our favorite grandpa. Who decides the uniform combo each week? Is it coaches, players, equipment staff? Is it a combination of all of that?
So, Peter, I will tell you this. We have talked to Riley Leonard. We have talked to Jacob Monk. We talked with Big Wayne, the campaign this past weekend. We don't have a definitive answer.
Yeah.
All we know is that Coach Elko is open to suggestions for each game. And I'll give you an example. Last year, Jamion Franklin had his senior day against Wake Forest. Coach Elko let Jamion pick the color combination, which I did not like at all. Jamion, if you're watching or listening, I'm sorry, but I just don't like that combination. What was it? Black, white, black?
I think it was white, black, white.
Yeah. So we still don't know. We've asked if captains pick. The captains have said we have no idea. We don't know if coach just makes a decision based off of who they're playing. We really don't know. We're trying to get to the bottom of this, but no one will give us the answer we're looking for. So, Peter, we appreciate the question.
Yeah, one thing we know for sure, Peter, Brian Kennedy does not get to pick.
They do not ask. They do not ask the uniforms are.
I have tried to get into the equipment room and got swiftly kicked out. So.
And much to Brian's chagrin, like he hates it. It kills him when he doesn't get, he doesn't get to do that.
All I will say is when we had our episode for game day improvements last year, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. I made the suggestion for the Black Hellraiser with all black against UNC. And what happened, fellas? What happened on that game? All black with the black or the blue Hellraiser on the black helmet. But all I can do is suggest.
There may be a game coming up here in a couple of weeks that they might wear the all black with the Hellraiser.
Yeah, maybe 7:30 kickoff. It's gonna be at night.
But we're not talking about that game. We're not wanting to jinx it.
And listen, and I don't know that anybody with any clout at Duke football listens to our podcast, but I personally, this is my thought on the uniform thing. I really don't care. I definitely don't care as much as Brian cares. But if we are going to come up with something that we can do on a consistent basis, Duke now plays in-state opponents 3 times: Wake Forest, UNC, NC State. I believe we have black, white, blue, Hellraiser. I think we can rotate them in-state games. We know we're going to wear the Hellraiser. I think that would be something interesting for sure.
And Carolina does that with NC State and Duke. It's been oh, sorry, I accidentally muted myself. It is the big Tar Heel on the chrome helmets. They do that. They do special helmets for those games. So yeah, I agree with Josh. I think that would be great. For your in-state opponents, you do the Hellraiser just to how do I put it? It's not like your Iron Duke D, and it's not like the script that used to, like behind me, it used to be every other game. I like that, Josh. I think that's great. You save it for Wake, you save it for State, and you definitely have it for UNC, but don't use it for any other matter unless it's maybe a bowl game or another big opponent like Clemson. Could have used it there that you don't play every year. Jamie?
All right. At FishFry02, if we were coaches, which we're not, but if we were,
Oh, boy.
what's one thing we would change immediately on offense and defense? And I'll go ahead and throw this out first thing, because when I saw that question, I was like, well, offensively, and then I'll shoot it to you guys. I would definitely start taking some shots down the field. That's just nitpicky maybe, but and maybe we will as we get more opportunities. Like I said, I'm not a coach, but I would like to see us go downfield a little more.
Because who's throwing the ball down the field, Jamie?
Riley Leonard.
Of course.
And you said that very awkwardly.
Yeah, you really did.
Riley.
Oh, boy. Restraining order to 500 yards now.
Jamie Dust.
Go ahead, Brian.
What
What is the defensive adjustment you would make?
Yeah.
I've got one. I have one.
Go ahead, because, and I say this, there hasn't been anything that has stood out so far to me that has made me go, man, I wish they changed this. But maybe I'm not watching the same game as you guys are. What do you got, Josh?
Well, I'm going to adjust the question. I don't have anything I would change on defense. I would change one thing on special teams. I would at least give a 50-50 split to Samir Hagens, being able to return punts. Nothing against Jalen. I think they should split that, though, every other. I think Samir proved last year in that Georgia Tech game that he can be a game changer. And so that would be one thing I would change immediately. But I'm not a coach. So, hey. Next.
I would change.
Oh, Scott, I'm sorry, Scott.
I was just say the one thing I would change on the kickoff.
Fair catch. Yep. I would like to know what the percentage is these days of returners who fair catch and who actually try to return it out, no matter where it's at.
There's got to be data on like that 25-yard line. And at the end of the day, if you're going to, most of the time when we decide, any team I see decides to bring it out, they don't make it to the 25 most of the time. So, like, to me, it's like you should just consistently all the time take that fair catch, unless you just happen to catch that ball with so much momentum, you know what I mean? And you're going to get past the 25, which rarely happens. So I'm all about just blanket fair catch.
What's next?
All right. We got a couple of questions that were similar, so I kind of put them together. At Splash Obi, Tyler. Shout out, Tyler. Best real man in all the world. And at Bleed Blue _24. They asked, UConn looked a lot more threatening to start the year with them starting 0-3. Is there anything that concerns us with them? And at Bleed Blue 24 adds, has UConn just not lived up to the preseason expectations, or are they just bad?
Well, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
And I was going to say the quarterback got hurt and he's out for the season. That's number one. They lost a linebacker for the season last week also. I would say the concern, just from my standpoint of watching UConn, is that running back is really good and he's small. So he's kind of like the guy from Lafayette, can hide behind the old lineman. And he actually had a really long run against NC State.
Yeah, I would say that, if Duke's looking at something, I don't know. They got their butt kicked, man. Like the best game they played all season was the NC State game, and then they got hammered by Georgia State, and then they got beat by FIU.
Yep, 24-17.
At the end of the day, and like in the 3 games, 2 of the games they gave up like ridiculous amounts of rushing yardage. And one of the Georgia State game, the quarterback ran for over 140. And so, like, I think that could be something Duke really, exploits this week. So I would look for a heavy dose of Jordan Waters, Jacquez Moore, and Riley Leonard.
Oh, and UConn struggling against mobile QBs, and what do we have? Riley Leonard.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, no doubt.
I mean, I'm just saying he's better than what Georgia State's got, and he's better than Brennan Armstrong. So, if they're giving up big time yards to those two, Riley could have a field day on Saturday.
Really quick before we get to the next question, I did just look this up. UConn's last game against FIU. Jamie, I think you're echoing. Can you mute it really quick? I can hear myself. Sorry. Against FIU, UConn had 170 passing yards and 173 rushing yards. So not too boastful with that. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. FIU isn't exactly the greatest team this year, from what I've heard.
McIntyre, isn't it?
I think so.
I think that's
I
Mike
don't.
McIntyre down there.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I
But
know
still.
Durfee and those guys.
Yeah.
A lot of former Duke guys are down there.
Well, hey, the quarterback for that's running the show right now for UConn is a former Penn State guy.
Okay. And it was Devontae Houston, the running back for UConn. Went for 126 yards on 19 attempts and had one catch for 37 yards, and that was actually a touchdown. So there you go. Jamie, what's next?
All right. At LA Dodgers all day. And I don't know if we've heard anything about this or not, but any word on why Charlie Ham hasn't been handling kickoff duties?
Yeah, I can take that one. By the way, was that Sam? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So we got to meet him. That's my guy. But anyway, thank you for the question. So basically, Charlie's been nursing an injury since the beginning of the year. In fact, the Clemson game when he was warming up, his leg was fully wrapped up. So he's had like a hip issue, I believe, and then we were told he was actually sick as well, like physically sick Saturday. So that's why there's nothing going on. Coach Elko mentioned today in the presser that he believes he'll play this weekend. So that's the update on Charlie.
Okay. At Skilo 22, Freddie from Duke Report. We like Freddie.
Are you sure? When none of us shook our head.
Yeah. Freddie's a fellow beach goer. He likes the beach too.
He was actually at the beach the last game, wasn't he? Yeah, against Northwestern.
With game day heading to South Bend this week, what does that do to the chances of Duke getting game day?
I mean, let's go through it. We went through this last week before we started recording. Duke, Notre Dame, if they're both undefeated, there's a good shot. But there's also, I think, Oregon State, Utah. There's Colorado, USC. And there was one more I can't remember.
Georgia, Auburn.
Yes, that was the one. So knowing game day, they love them some SEC football regardless of the records. It would probably be there. But who knows? I mean, from what we've heard from the fans, there has been times in the past where game day covers the same team 2 weeks in a row. Scott?
I was going to say, they're definitely not going to go to Colorado again because Colorado's going to come off a loss this weekend. I think Oregon's going to knock them down. And I'm a Colorado fan, by the way, just for the heck of it. And I think they're actually going to get humbled this weekend. Oregon's going to lay it to them. But I just don't see USC. It's a noon kickoff. It's 10 a.m. local time kickoff.
I don't get why
because
they
it's
would
on
do that.
Fox.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
on the 3 letters.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Well, and that's my issue. So you have the Fox game there, you have the CBS game with Auburn and Georgia. So to me, I don't know if College Game Day. I know they do it sometimes, but I don't think they want to make a habit of promoting a game that's not going to be on one of their networks. So that's
Yeah.
Here's the flip side too for the what it's worth department. Typically, if they do a game day site, the game of the night will be on ABC at 7:30. So that's where the game is.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance, and never come to Duke.
Right.
If Notre Dame does their job and beats OHIO,
OHNO.
Heck no. As long as they beat them this weekend, then that changes everything. As long as Duke does their job at 3:30, Notre Dame does their job, then at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock Saturday night, we may all get a surprise.
And let's go ahead.
Let me mention this too. Some people are going to say, well, College Game Day is at Notre Dame OSU this week, and they're right. But there has been a time when they've gone back to back with the same team, but a home and away, which this would be. I believe Michigan, they did that. Michigan was at home. College Game Day was there. The next weekend, Michigan was playing someone else on the road, and College Game Day was there. So I know they don't try to make that a habit, but Notre Dame is a big enough brand. Obviously, if they're going to go 2 weeks in a row, Notre Dame would be one they wouldn't mind doing, but we don't know. Here's the deal. Anybody that says they know, or they have some kind of insider information, they don't, because Duke has no idea. Like Duke is the people internally at Duke, they're planning what if potentially. They have no idea. They're not going to find out until everyone else does on Saturday.
It's not officially official until an official from Game Day officially announces that it is officially coming to Duke.
And let's let's be honest. 7:30 p.m. time slot. Either way, that's a big step for Duke to get another primetime matchup, even if game day doesn't come. But let's say let's say the media loves them some Notre Dame too. So if they beat Ohio State and Duke beats UConn, there's a good chance.
Yeah, because there's not another game that week where two undefeateds are going. Maybe Oregon State, Utah, but again, that's a West Coast game, isn't it?
There's not another night game either.
Yeah,
That's of any use
So
from what I saw today.
So the stars are aligning, is what you're saying. If both teams handle business.
I mean, it would be one of the few times where Herb Street wouldn't have to leave.
Well,
he could actually stay on campus all day instead of having getting on a plane to go across the country for whatever.
Yeah,
like he did last week.
Yep.
All right. At TS Lester _ says he's interested to see Duke play on the road for the first time. I think we all are, just to get that out there. He said he's also trying not to get overly excited, but what are the chances that this Duke team finishes in the top 3 or even goes to Charlotte?
I'll take this one to start. There is a good shot, in my opinion. Here's why. The game this week features FSU and Clemson. Clemson loses, they're 0-2 in the ACC. You can kiss them goodbye. They will not be in the title game unless something drastically happens. Like if there's coastal chaos like we used to have in the Coastal Division happens to the whole ACC, Clemson might still have a shot. But Clemson coming out of a 0-2 hole to still get to Charlotte, I don't see that happening. Furthermore, Duke's next ACC opponent is NC State. From what we've seen as a crew of podcast collaborators, NC State is kind of iffy right now, wishy-washy. They look decent against UConn, and then who else did they play? There was a team
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. There you go. So
they got spanked in the second half pretty bad.
In my humble opinion, you've got to beat State, you got to beat North Carolina, and you got to beat Pitt. I'm throwing Pitt in there too.
I think you got to beat Louisville.
Yeah, I forgot about Louisville. FSU, if Duke can go down to Tallahassee and upset FSU, one, Jordan Mann will burn all of his pants. Shout out Jordan. But two, I can't think of another team that would be in the catbird seat moving forward after that game other than Duke to at least be in the top 2.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, Florida State looked invincible until last week. Jordan Travis got banged up in the first half. Boston College, especially their quarterback, made Florida State look silly. I mean, he shredded that defense, so they no longer look like they're unbeatable. So at the end of the day, I mean, absolutely Duke could be there. I don't know how much money I'd put on it right now, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just keep winning. I keep winning football games. Duke, there should not be a game other than Notre Dame and Florida State where Duke is more than, say, a touchdown dog. When the lines come out, there should be within 3 points either way, probably the rest of the way, other than those two games.
No, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want these guys to have a chip on their shoulder.
I know. I'm just saying.
Notre Dame by 38. I don't care.
We're getting respect. All right, next.
All right, at Real Matt Barbie says, I know winning is all that matters, and I'm sure Riley doesn't mind. But are we disappointed that Duke isn't allowing Riley to put up massive numbers that would allow him to compete for the Heisman?
All right. So I did a little bit of research because I actually saw Matt's question going through the document. So we've talked with Riley. Riley just wants to win. He doesn't care about Heisman numbers. He doesn't care about what he does every game. As long as the team's winning and he's putting forth an effort that gets them a win, that's what he cares about. Now, what I looked up, fellas, I looked up the amount of rushing attempts and pass attempts we had for each game so far this season. Clemson, 34 passes, 30 rushes. Lafayette, 20 passes, 45 rushes. Northwestern, 20 passes, 40 rushes. I'm not saying this because I'm a fan of this team, but this Duke team is like the Dallas Cowboys have been their first couple of games. Mike McCarthy, the coach of the Cowboys, even came out and said, I don't want to air the ball out so much to where our defense never gets a rest. If we can pound the ball, run the ball, give our defense more time to rest on the sidelines, we're going to keep doing that. So far from what we've seen from this Duke team, they just have their will on the ground. And that does open Riley up to make passes and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if you're getting 5-6 yards of carry, which we've seen from Waters and Rogers, more, then why stop? I mean, there's going to come a game to where a team's defense is going to stop the rushing attack from Duke. But to answer your question, no, I don't think Riley's upset that he's not putting up the numbers everyone thought he would have.
No, and if I can say this, and we can move on. I think if we're just logical about it, if Riley would have returned next season for a senior season, that's the Heisman year. The schedule is a little bit easier. He will be like another season under his belt, and I think Duke will really push it from the get go on that one. So I just think we're a year early on that, and who knows? He may end up in the NFL draft after this year. But we can tell you, like Brian said, we've spoken to him off camera. He's not focused on any of this stuff. He is focused on winning football games, and that is it. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah. And by the way, really quick before Jamie gets Jamie, you done, Jamie? All right, thanks for joining us, Jamie.
My bad.
By the way, folks, Jamie's at the beach, so yeah, he's not really focusing right now. He's thinking about the sand and the waves and everything like that.
And the Panthers game is going on, even they're at halftime right now.
Hashtag keep pouting.
They suck. They suck. So.
All right, what's next?
At HC Habinski, if I did not pronounce that right, I apologize. Do we worry that the empty seats will eventually outweigh the internal motivation and the team's ability to keep building and recruit successfully? Thought that was an interesting question.
I don't think so. I do think this, though, and this is my chance to get on my soapbox. Folks, get your butts out to the field. Good grandma. This is one of the best Duke teams we've ever had. Get off your lazy behinds. Get your butt in Wallace Wade. Watch the football game, for Pete's sake. This team is fun. This team is exciting. This coaching staff is unbelievable. If you wanted to have a dream of what a perfect opportunity was when we wanted to put in a new coach and a new everything, this is what we got. These are the guys that he didn't have to bring in. He's only brought in a couple guys that he recruited, a couple transfers. These are dudes that were here when we were 3-9. These guys have tasted victory. They love the sweet nectar of it. And guess what? They're going to come out every week expecting to win every stinking game. But we need to have more people in the stands watching the game. The crowd was okay last week as far as cheering and making noise, and that's great. Student section was pretty decent. But, folks, we've got to do a better job. We're getting ready to have Notre Dame next week, and we know there's going to be a lot of people there. We're getting ready to have the Wolfies from Raleigh come over. You know there's going to be a lot of red in the stadium. I mean, what else? What else do these guys need to do? I mean, it's almost like we're trying to convince the national media that Duke actually has a football team. What's it going to do to get the fan base to get out here? Folks, we got to get out there. We've got to support these guys. I mean,
Scott, I'm about to ask you to calm down.
I'm sorry. Scott
out here preaching.
I mean, I feel like I'm in Section 17 right now with Scott going after the referee.
And I have behaved for 2 years. That's the funny part. But, I mean, in all honesty, though, in all seriousness, football has to be taken seriously by the fan base. And that's the problem. If it was and then this is not a shot, so please don't take it this way. If it was the guys that were sitting on the front row, which, by the way, thank you, basketball team, for coming out and watching the football team. We appreciate that. I know Coach Shire may not have anything to do with it. He may have something to do with it because I know him and Coach Elko have a friendship. That is a great thing to see. And I know there's other sports that are there, the baseball, the volleyball, all that other stuff. I understand. But, if this was Cameron, boy, people would be, doing what they could to get a ticket. This is the perfect time of year to start coming to football games. It's going to be nice and cool. The weather is going to be perfect as long as it doesn't rain. So that's what I'm saying. And until the Duke fan base gets with the program, there's going to be a lot of empty seats, and it's not fair to these kids.
And that rant was brought to you by Comfort Mechanical Contractors. For all your commercial and HVAC needs, reach out to Comfort Mechanical Contractors. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that.
Scott just preached a sermon, and we thought Josh was the preacher.
Yeah, man, I know what I'm doing Sunday then.
Hey, now if you could, folks, just go ahead and pause this video if you're watching on YouTube. Reach out to Scott, make a quick donation, a quick
Yeah.
tithe to Preacher Medlin. That was a great
right.
message.
I can give you guys a giving link. It goes directly to
Yes.
so. All right. But we wholeheartedly agree with Scott. So what's the next question, Jamie?
At Brian Generate, when will Jordan Waters start getting more coverage as at least as one of the better backs in the ACC? And I say to that, as long as he just keep doing what he's doing, because he's really running real hard this year. He got 5 touchdowns now already?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just cutting into my steak dinner I'm going to have with the predictions because I had him with 10 for the season. Yeah, he has been not a pleasant surprise, but a big improvement from last year. He's been running a lot more north to south instead of east to west. He's a bigger back than Jaquez, Jalen, and even Peyton. Now, Peyton's big. He's just shorter. But I think he's improved a lot from last season to this season. And we were talking about he's had 5 touchdowns through 3 games. That would put him on pace, guys, for what, 20 rushing touchdowns if he were to continue at that pace? I mean, my goodness. I don't think these guys care about the media attention. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was going to say, we actually saw him after the game, Josh and I did before we left. He had a huge smile on his face. He was happy as he could be. He was happy that he got his. I mean, it's kind of like Riley. It's the whole team mentality. These guys are glad to see the other guys score. At the end of the day, they understand the fact that Duke has more points than the other team. They win, and if they win, everybody wins. So it's a huge opportunity. And honestly, though, it would be nice to see him get a little more pub because the guy is having a great season for what he's done so far.
Yep. Wholeheartedly agree. He's been running real hard. At Doug Brown 700, another week went by without many vertical shots. Is this a hole in the offense, or is the offense capable of it and just not using it? And to that, I say, I don't think it's a hole in the offense because we got dudes that can get downfield. We got Jalen Calhoun, we got Jordan Moore, we got Samir Hagans, etc. I mean, even Nicky Dalmolin at tight end can get downfield. I just think the offense hasn't needed that yet.
Yeah, Coach Elko mentioned it in Monday's presser. Why would you, if you could turn around and hand the ball off to one of those running backs, why in the world wouldn't you? And until teams show that they can stop Duke's rushing attack, then why risk throwing those deep shots when you could turn around and hand it off and get 6-7 yards of carry? So I think we're going to see that until people can stop it. Why not? That's the way you win football games.
And it probably won't be until that Notre Dame game to where they might have to adjust Kevin Johns and Mike Elko because I believe Notre Dame has a stout rushing defense. And you're still muted. Yep. There you go.
All right, on to Facebook. First one's just kind of a comment, but I thought I'd throw it out there. Richard Bird, which is Ben's dad, correct?
Yep. Shout out
coordinators.
Yep. So he just says still on our way to 10-2, and to that, sir, I would say you mistyped 12-0. But
yeah,
next question, Daniel Ray off of Facebook, is UConn a potential trap game? How will Duke handle their first road game? And then Jonathan Huggins adds, what does Duke need to do to prepare for a loyal UConn fan base? And
all right, number one, is it a trap game? I mean, any game before a big game like Notre Dame, you could say is a trap game. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Ohio State is a trap game for Notre Dame, because they're looking ahead to Duke. So, of course. But no, is this a trap game? I mean, yeah, for where it is on the schedule, you could say that. I don't believe Duke is going to allow the typical trap game stuff to happen. I do think that maybe we don't cover. I think, what is it, 23.5 or something?
It's 21 right now.
21. That's 3 touchdowns. I mean, Duke may not cover that. Who knows? But at the end of the day, as we just talked about with rushing the football, as long as we don't get cute, and I don't think Kevin Johns is going to, I mean, I'm not going to say there's no chance we lose this game. I'm saying they're 0-3. 2 of the 3 games they've given up a crap ton of rushing yardage, and we run the ball like crazy. We have 12 rushing touchdowns in the first 3 games of the season. So, is it going to happen? I mean, you'll hear our predictions at the end, of course, but I do not believe Duke is going to fall into this trap game.
My one thing that I'm going to be watching as I'm flying down to Miami is how will the defense play in the first couple of series, because that has been an Achilles heel so far, and Coach Elko's even alluded to it, that it's just taken a little bit longer for the defense to get to the level that he expects them to get to. Happened at Lafayette, I think it was a 7-7 time. We're all thinking, oh no, this can't be. Clemson, it took them a little while, but Clemson's an atypical powerhouse. And then Northwestern, I really think Northwestern was more, we stopped in the first series, then they started moving the second series, but then after that it was just total domination.
And as far as what was said about a loyal UConn fan base, now I did see that at the state game when they played first game of the season, they were almost full. There was almost 40,000 people at that game. But then against FIU, it was down to 20,000 at the game, and now they're 0-3. Let's see who actually shows up for the game. It could be not as many people there as we think.
I'm gonna say 15,000. I think it's going to go down again. The people that are there are going to want to watch Duke more than UConn.
To be honest with you, though, and it's kind of weird about UConn and New England to me, the Patriots. For some reason, every time their games are on TV, no matter the time of the day, it looks like it's 9 p.m. It's like it's so dark in the stadium. And I don't know if maybe that's something they do on purpose to try to make the other teams have issues. But it's something I've noticed almost every time they're on TV. It looks like it's dark. So I don't know, maybe they're not well lit.
Or it could be how the stadium's built with the sun going down too, because with it being a 3:30 kickoff, as we get closer to fall and winter, the sun's going to go down probably in the third quarter. So
True.
Still muted.
Struggling with my mute button. Trent Pace, our buddy that sits with us every week in Section 17, except for this past weekend when he was sick. Hope you're feeling better, Trent. If Northwestern scored 14 and Clemson only scored 7, does that mean Northwestern is better than Clemson? It's the science. The science is there.
I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. They speak for themselves.
The chuckle he was typing that into his phone.
Yep. No comment.
Yep. No.
We might have to play Clemson in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Don't ruffle any feathers.
Yeah, let's not do that.
George Bunn, how surprised are we with the performance of the defense, especially with it being the first year with Santucci? And I will say with Santucci, at least he has had some familiarity with Elko, and Elko's handprints are all over this defense. But yeah, they have been amazing so far this year. What do you guys think?
Well, let's remember this. What was the percentage of defensive starters coming back? It was like 75% or something like that. So this is a team that has already had a year under their belt under the new system. And I don't know how much has changed since, what was his name last year? Was it Rob Smith?
Rob Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Rob Smith. From him leaving to Santucci coming in, I don't know what changes were made, if they were big or not. They've done a good job. Elko's alluded to it many times. He has his hands all over the defense because he's been a defensive coordinator for years now. So I'm not saying that Elko hasn't given the keys to the defense to Santucci, but I think he's got some influence as far as how to prepare for it.
I would say this, and this is just something that we noticed in the Clemson game to start out with, and it's held true. This is one of the few years where we've been able to rotate players in on third down and second downs and a lot. And Coach referenced it today that there has been times in all three of the fourth quarters, where he's not had to play everybody the whole quarter, where he's able to get some of these younger guys in and get an opportunity. I mean, we're talking third down and a couple big plays against Clemson. They're bringing in 5-6 new guys, and they go out there and stop Clemson, the number 9 team in the country. So obviously something's going right. Something's being done right in practice, and these kids are learning it.
All right, moving on. Jarrett Manning has a hard hitting, and this is a good question because this is a question that a lot of people have. What is with the tailgating and parking situation at Duke? Seems like every game, all but the garage and H lot are sold out, but they are nearly empty. And we've talked about this, so I'll let you
Yeah.
guys.
Do we want to
Well,
give the unfiltered answer, or do we want to sprinkle a little filtering in there?
well, listen. I'll be honest without being critical. The parking is a challenge at Duke. I mean, let's be honest. The closer, if you're not an Iron Duke, then you're not getting a parking pass unless you buy it off the secondary market. It just is the way it is. Hey, listen, you can be an Iron Duke for as little as $250 a year and get access to a parking pass. So that's on you. Number one. Number two, if you're looking at the free lots, the chemistry lot is not far. It's not. It's less than a half-mile walk. It's probably a quarter of a mile to the stadium from there, and that's the best place to get. It's a free lot, and there's a lot of tailgating that goes on there. And so, I know that get a spot on that tailgating row right there by Shashevskyville is quite a bit of money. I understand that. But where we are in the B lots, we literally give, between $250 and $1,000 a year to get access to those parking spots. And so at the end of the day, that's all we can tell you. Find a parking pass or become an Iron Duke, or I would say on the free lots, the chemistry lot is the place to be.
I just miss the days where you could park on the sides of the street leading up to the Science Drive lot. Showing my age here, but you literally just park behind the car behind you. They would keep lining them up, and you would walk basically from the Science Drive garage to Wallace Wade. Except the garage wasn't there; it used to be a parking lot.
I mean, honestly, we used to park in the lots where the paved lots where the B lots are now. We used to park there, and it wasn't paved at the time, but because I remember like one game it rained so heavy, I believe it was an ECU game many years ago that Duke actually won. It rained so hard that I almost got stuck in that parking lot.
Parking lot one,
Yeah.
Jamie 0.
Next question comes from Aaron Butner. We're 3 games in. What do we think is Duke's greatest opportunity to improve the next few weeks? Good question, Aaron.
I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. The defense needs to come out a lot faster than they have the first 3 games. That's my biggest opportunity for the team. If they can come out first 2 series and play like they play third, fourth quarter, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think to echo that, that's a great question, by the way. Shout out Aaron. It's my guy. But I believe to kind of echo what Brian said, but I think in a broader sense, I think the challenge is going to be having a game, and hopefully it's the Notre Dame game, where we put it all together, right? Where we don't turn the ball over. The first 2 weeks, we turn the ball over a little bit. So where we don't turn the ball over, where the defense does get out early and really makes a statement, where the offense is clicking. We need one of those games where we put it all together. And I think that's going to be, if and when that happens. Once again, you hope it happens on a game like Notre Dame where you're 7:30 ABC and you're a nationally televised game. So at the end of the day, I believe that's what we're looking for, right? That's what all the fans are looking for. That's what I know the coaching staff is looking for, is a game where everything seems to fall into place.
To me, there was an opportunity in the second quarter last week where it was the 4th and inches situation where if Duke gets that first down, it may be over then completely because that's another touchdown on the board. It didn't work out in their favor. Northwestern then took the ball for 8 minutes and went down and scored that touchdown right before the half. So, just simple stuff like that could be something down the road where it could be a big deal.
I'll just echo something I've said previously on the podcast. Like, I'd like to see us throw downfield a little more. It's nitpicky, but I'd like to see it. So, I mean, that's something maybe we can improve on as the year goes on. Not necessarily improve on, because I think we can do it, but just to do it, just adjust and start attacking more.
Jamie out here nicking pits.
All right, we got Michael Martino with a more of a comment, not a question.
Oh,
but
boy.
I'll read it anyways. It's just a comment. It's nice to see the expectations for the team being higher, which I agree. Previous years, we would just hope for 500 in a bowl game. Now Coach Elko has us hoping for more. Maybe Charlotte.
I expected Mike Martino to have some sort of sarcasm in
Well,
his statement.
that was a good
Yes,
statement.
I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say, but I agree. I mean, listen, it's really funny because like coach speak, right? Like when Coach Elko was hired, he was like, my goal was to win the ACC championship. My goal was to be in the talks for for national whatever. And like look, let's be honest, we're all like, yeah, okay, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, sounds good. And honestly, we probably have in our head, look, dude, all you got to do is go 6-6 or 7-6 on the season, and we're gonna love you forever. So, but honestly, in less than 2 years, the expectation level is now there. And listen, he has led that charge. These players have led that charge, and now the expectation is higher. And I love it. I love the pressure that it puts on the team. I love the pressure that it puts on the organization as a whole. And yeah, I mean, I would much rather finish the season 10-2 than 7-6, right?
But to put it into perspective for some newer Duke fans, football fans, you have to understand where we're coming from being lifelong Duke fans. We went through 18 years of misery as Duke fans to where you'd win one game a year, maybe two games. Hell, there was a few seasons where you won no games. Duke was the laughing stock from 1995 till 2007. David Cutcliffe comes in, took him 4 years, but hey, got back to a bowl game, first one since 1994 and 2012. Then Duke fans from 2012 to what was it, 2018, expected at least a bowl game. And then we all saw what happened the last 2 years. So that's why, to Josh's point, when it was, hey, we're going to do this ACC title and be in national contention, and we're like, okay, we've heard this before. You're going to talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. He's done it. He's already walked the walk in what, 15 games so far, 16 games?
16 games. There were 12-4.
Yeah. So I mean, he has put some of the naysayers, including us, because we were cautiously optimistic. We've shut up. So yeah, it's great to have the conversation of what can we do next as a program.
It's also the buzz is very nice.
Mhm.
And we just need to go back to the rant from 20 minutes ago and put butts in seats.
Yeah. All right. Regina Lee is next
Regina.
up. She says she lives on the West Coast, so she has to watch most of these games on TV. Leading to her questions, TV analysts seem to think Duke is committing more silly penalties this season than last season. She says she's not sure if they're right, but why do you think Duke is making some silly mistakes? And then she says similarly, easy for me to say.
Similarly?
Simmer down there. Simmer down there.
Similarly.
She says the ACC network pointed out that Duke projects to commit more fumbles this season than last season. And thoughts on why?
Well, listen, I mentioned it already. We turned the ball over the first two games, and that's uncharacteristic of Duke. Last season that was not the case. And then I will say, to her point, I believe there have been more like false starts this season. The wideouts, I mean, and these are high character guys like Jalen Calhoun and Jordan Moore that have gotten multiple false starts for the wideout position. So yeah, I believe there's some validity to that. I mean, but I will also say, last year was like gifts. Like we were being given gifts and turnovers, right? And it was just crazy. I mean, listen, you can't train fumble recovery. That's hard to train. The ball's got to bounce the right way.
Right.
And daggone it did last season. And so I think at the end of the day, it's a combination of all that. But yeah, I would love if I'm a coach, if I'm one of the Duke coaches, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I'm like, yeah, we got to clean it up a little bit. Those false starts, a 3rd and 1 against Notre Dame that turns into a 3rd and 6 against Notre Dame is not a recipe for a win.
Nope.
All right. Next is Josh Smith, our guy from the Devil's Den podcast. Shout out to the Devil's Den guys. Duke didn't take any L's, but he wants to know, did I take any L's this weekend? And I did not. There were no random flag poles for me to fall on. I didn't. I managed to walk upright the entire day. Didn't trip over any pavement or fall down any steps. Although we almost saw a lady fall down the steps at Wallace Way, which would have been disaster.
Yes.
She would have had to been taken to the Scott Medlin medical room.
Yeah.
The Scott Medlin Memorial Medical Room.
Hey, if you want to give money, there's the thing. Give money to that. We're going to get a sign made, and I'm actually going to go put it on the wall and get my picture taken beside it before the season is over.
Listen,
Just so we can take this thing to a whole nother level.
Listen, so we said, so if you guys are brand new to the podcast, by the way, shout out to Eli, I believe his name is. A young guy came by and saw us, and he just found our podcast a week ago, and he came to say hello. So shout out to new listeners. By the way, if you're a new listener, subscribe on YouTube, like, give 5-star ratings and reviews, all that good stuff. Thank you, new listeners. But on the Clemson weekend or that night of the game, Scott had been out all day long. It was very hot. We were at the Devil Walk. We get up. Scott gets up, can't get up, ends up kind of passing out. They call the medical team over. All this good stuff. Scott had kind of laid down there on the bench and all that good stuff. So they took care of him. He's good, good to go, and was out at our seats before kickoff. But we did say, if you've ever been to Mayberry and you've seen the statue of Andy Griffith, where you can sit beside him on the bench, we said we need to put a statue of Scott right there outside of Cameron. And listen, here's the cool part: you can either get your picture with him upright, where he was sitting there, or you can lay him down, and you can get a picture with him laying down. So
the only thing
we'll see. I think that would be incredible.
See, and honestly, if you want to do this and have fun with this, anybody that wants to have their picture taken next weekend at Cameron, I'm all for it because I'm game. This is fun. But if you want to do the laying down portion, I am going to need you to bring some poster board to at least fan me while I'm laying there.
That's right. We'll have the McIntyre family come and fan you.
If you want to tickle my paws and feed me grapes too, you can do that also.
And the guy,
tickle my paws.
Oh God, this is taking a turn.
Oh my gosh, folks! For what it's worth, if you cannot laugh at yourself, then you cannot laugh at others.
Hey, look, the guys were trying to say we should name the medical building the Scott Medlin Memorial Medical Room, yes. And I was like, hey guys, it can't be Memorial unless Scott is not with us anymore.
Hey, I will say this is how we are to each other.
Yeah,
Scott was on the stretcher. He'd come back too. Right before they wheeled him off, I said, Scott, how many fingers? And I flipped him off. Even the EMTs were laughing about that.
Yeah, because I reminded them. I said, these are the guys I actually came to the game with.
And I was super when it happened. I was super mean. I had just transferred our tickets to Scott, and I'm like, yes. Man, I know he's on the stretcher, but we got to make sure we can get in the game. So I remove the transfer and send it to somebody else. I'm like, look, I mean, he may not be in there, but we're gonna daggone get in there. So anyway, all right, next.
So Nathaniel Miller, my cousin.
Oh boy, here we go.
Jamie Clayton.
It was a good question.
All right.
Duke gave up its first second half touchdown against Northwestern, even though it was a junk time touchdown, as Northwestern was getting their asses kicked. Now I added that part. That wasn't from the thing. I did add that part. I'm not, because they were getting their asses kicked. Oh, bleep that if you need to. Sorry about that. Sorry, YouTube. I apologize to the children. Earmuffs.
Earmuffs. You can say anything you want.
How many more games do we think?
Yeah, there we go.
He got it himself.
1 hour and 2 minutes, folks.
How many more games do we think Duke? Their opponents scoreless in the second half.
I think I understood the question. As Brian said, Duke has gotten off to a slow start on defense, but at some point in time, right, sometimes it's taking a little bit longer than other games in these first three. But listen, by the time that second half rolls around, they have made whatever adjustments they've needed to make. They've woken up. Whoever needed to wake up has woken up. Credit Coach Santucci, and the defensive staff there. Probably, honestly, credit Captain Jamion Franklin, Captain Dwayne Carter. Credit those guys. But by the time that second half rolls around, the defense is ready. And like Dwayne told us in the behind-the-scenes interview, Durham Devils Club.com, their goal is to be the freshest team on the field in the fourth quarter. And, man, if they don't look like it, that's shout out to – we've gone 2 episodes now probably without mentioning David Feely.
The Italian stallion.
Feely. That's right. So, shout out the pinstripe jersey boy.
All right.
How many more we got left? I was kidding about just reading. Okay.
Just a couple more. Kelly Rowe from the beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina.
Shout out Kelly.
Hope everyone is doing well and enjoying this 3-0 start. He said he was just looking at some stats of Riley Leonard, and he noticed that he's only thrown for 1 touchdown. He's like, is that any cause for concern? Or is he just looking too much into it? Or has the running game just been that good? Which my answer would be the running game's just been that good, and Riley hasn't had to really do much.
Yeah, Kelly, rewind about 15 minutes. You'll get your answer.
Yeah, why throw when you can run?
Yep.
Yeah. Also, he says, can we get some Duke gear on Josh's walls? His background is boring.
Dang. That's okay. That's good. I mean,
the challenge has been thrown down.
I will agree. It's kind of I have to figure that out. I do have a wall behind me, but I try to take up as much of my screen as possible. So
no argument there.
All right, there's one more question. This is the last one.
All right.
Can we get an update from our resident bulletologist? And that comes to us from JH in Holden Beach. I don't know not sure who that guy is.
Sounds like a jackass. So if you haven't read
what is it from @JH Big Fat Booty Boy? I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So if you haven't, me and Freddie from the Duke Report, we're giving our weekly thoughts on where we think this Duke team's going to go after each game. I still have this team down in Orlando in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That could change. That could definitely change after the Clemson-Florida State game this weekend. Now, if you weren't at the game, we had some special guests at Wallace Wade this past Saturday, representatives from the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and we even messed with them a little bit. Hey, you like what you see? We'd love to come down. And the reps, they don't really want to say anything, but they're scouting this Duke team. They want to see if they can get them down to Orlando.
He was videoing the Blue Devil walk.
He was. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, because you follow this stuff closer than I do.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to go to that bowl, that means we would have probably be the third team in the ACC. Now, if we would be top 2, which, like you said, Clemson, Florida State, if Clemson could win that game, it puts us in contention there because we own the tiebreaker with Clemson.
Right. So,
that could be Orange Bowl, right?
Yeah. So in that instance, if Duke goes to the ACC title game, and I'm just throwing this out there, if they lost to the new ACC champion, then yes, they would more than likely go to the Orange Bowl. If they won the ACC title game, depending on what they were ranked, and again, I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves. If they were top 10, top 5, depending on how these games go, I mean, we're talking CFP. But here's the wild card. Notre Dame. They still have bowl tie-ins with the ACC, even though they're not an ACC member. So let's say it's Duke and Florida State. Duke loses, and they're the second best ACC team, but Notre Dame's a top 4. Then you would have Florida State go to the Orange Bowl. Duke would probably be in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Or even if Florida State went to the college football playoff, the Orange Bowl could elect to pick Notre Dame, a 1 or 2 loss Notre Dame, instead of a 1 or 2 loss Duke. So, I get that completely. Okay, that makes sense.
I would say this, the one other thing that would be a fly in the ointment is if it's not, whoever wins doesn't make the CFP.
That's true.
Because if it's, let's say it's let's say Miami. Let's say Miami.
Okay.
Let's say Miami sneaks up there and they're like 12 and Duke's 15 and they beat them. They're not going to hop into the CFP after beating Duke. Unless some serious chaos happens that weekend. So they would end up in the Orange Bowl.
But this is the last year we have to worry about that because the 12-team playoff system comes into play next year.
Exactly.
So, as we get closer to the end of October, 1st of November, there's going to be a lot of things playing itself out. So hopefully we stay in that Orlando, Miami situation based off of all the outcomes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for leading the charge here with all the questions. Thank you, listeners, viewers, for your input. We love interacting with you. Levi, we love interacting with you. We want you to continue asking questions. But we have a great time answering those. And thank you so much for your input. Some of you have been emailing questions in, and we take those as well. So really, really appreciative of that. We do want to take a couple of seconds here to remind you to like and subscribe on YouTube. We thank you so much for the response that you give on YouTube, the comments, and all that type of stuff. Then obviously on social media, at Duke FB Talk on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and then Duke Football Talk search bar there on Facebook, finding our group there, and then DukeFootballTalk.com. That's where you can find our website. And then if you want to email us, I guess we can put that out there as well, because some of you are emailing us. It's DukeFBTalk@gmail.com. And so we really appreciate your support, guys. If we say this all the time, if we've earned 5 stars for the work we put in, would you be willing to give it to us? That's all we ask. If we've earned it, give it to us. If not, no big deal. But we would appreciate it. It is now time for one of our favorite segments that we do each week. And this is a time where we're able to look back at an important week in Duke football history and find an accolade or specific performance. Scott's been doing this now in his second season. So, Scott, without further ado, this week in Duke football history. Take it away.
So for this week in Duke football history, we're going to go back to September 23rd, 2017. Duke would win their 500th game in program history. The win was even sweeter for the Blue Devils because as they won 27-17 over Chapel Hill College in front of 59,000 screaming morons in light blue at Kenan Stadium. The Blue Devils sealed the victory on Brian Field's pick six of Sage Surratt. With 4 minutes and 11 seconds left in the game, securing the win and the victory belt for the Blue Devils. That was the best pass from a linebacker I've ever seen in my life. So
Wait, that wasn't Sage. It was Chase, right?
No, it was Sage.
Oh, Sage, I thought that was the kid that went Wake Forest one.
No, that's his brother.
It was Chaz Surratt.
Chaz.
It was Chaz.
Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
because Sage was at
Sage
Wake
is
Forest.
Wake Forest. It's okay, though. We all know what it is.
Yeah. What was that segment brought to you by? We forgot that part.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that part I was doing until I messed up. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
It was brought to us by Bull City Sheet Metal. With over 40,000 pounds of ductwork produced each week, Bull City Sheet Metal uses the state-of-the-art equipment and highly trained staff to meet all of your ductwork needs. Give them a call at 919-354-0993 or visit bullcitysheetmetal.com.
Awesome. We want to thank our sponsors, and we really do appreciate our friends at Bull City Sheet Metal. If you're interested in being a sponsor on the podcast, hit us up. DukeFBTalk@gmail.com. We'd love to talk to you about how you can be a part of it. We'll do our best to spread the word about you. And so we would appreciate that for sure. So thank you, Scott, for this week in Duke football history. Listen, that is one of the most epic moments of recent history in Duke football. Will not forget that two-handed pass, just ridiculous. And then that pick six to seal it was pretty incredible. So we're moving on now. Our upcoming opponent, we've talked a little bit about him from the mailbag, but Brian is going to give us a little bit more detail about our opponents there, the UConn Huskies. So without further ado, it's the Tale of the Tape with Brian Kennedy. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Tell of the tape for the UConn Huskies. Scott, by the way, they are still an independent school. There is no conference affiliate. I found that out while doing my research. Last year, UConn went 6-7 and went to the Myrtle Beach Bowl, where they lost to Marshall 28-14. Now, currently, UConn is 0-3, like we said earlier in the podcast. And last week, the Huskies were defeated by FIU 24-17. Head coach Jim Moore Jr. is in his second season with the Huskies and has an overall record of 52-40 in college football. He's also 2-3 in bowl games. Now, before coming to UConn, Mora had head coaching stints at UCLA, as well as in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. He also played linebacker and defensive back at Washington from 1980 to 1983. Now, overall, this is only the third matchup all time between Duke and UConn, with UConn leading the series matchup, winning both games 2-0. The first ever meeting between Duke and UConn took place on September 11, 2004 in East Hartford, Connecticut, where UConn defeated Duke 22-20. The only other time Duke and UConn played was in Durham in 2007, and UConn dominated Duke 45-14. So looking to change that this upcoming weekend. UConn overall is 21-45-2 all time against ACC schools and only has a winning record against 2 of those schools. Duke is 1. Fellas, I'm going to ask you, who do you think's the other team?
Syracuse.
Nope.
BC.
Nope, but it is up north. Nope. Jamie?
Pitt.
Pitt. Yes, it is. Pitt.
Scott gave it away, and then Brian shook his head, so I was like,
Yeah.
Pitt.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's how Jamie wins the prediction contest every season. All right, back on track. All right. Duke overall is 31, 38, and 6 all time against FBS independent schools. Duke's only winning record against an independent school is the Army Black Knights, where they are 14, 11, and 1. And now it's time for the Did You Know? UConn tried to start a rivalry with a conference foe that was 1,000 miles away, but it never got off the ground. Back in 2014, UConn upset then American Athletic Conference opponent Central Florida for their only FBS win of that year. Afterwards, UConn coach Bob Diaca proclaimed that a, quote, civil conflict had begun against the two schools, and he would happily buy a trophy to signify the new rivalry. The only problem was no one informed UCF of this new rivalry. UCF proclaimed they had no involvement with the rivalry or creation of the trophy. Heading into the 2015 matchup, Coach Diaca had a trophy created with both schools' logo on it, along with the score from the previous year's game. UConn would go on to win their second straight against the Black Knights and would keep the trophy another season. In 2016, however, the Knights defeated the Huskies and would promptly leave the trophy on the field, signifying they had no intention of making the yearly contest against the Huskies a rivalry. After the 2016 season, UConn fired Diaca, and new UConn head coach Randy Edsall elected not to continue the supposed rivalry. UCF would then go on to win 5 straight games against UConn from 2016 to 2021, and the UCF fan base would poke fun at the made-up rivalry in the years after. The trophy itself has gone missing since the 2016 game, and to this day, no one has any idea of the whereabouts of its location. And that was the tale of the tape for the Connecticut Huskies. Josh?
That is the not yet sponsored Tell the Tape. And
Yes, it is.
as we mentioned, reach out if you'd like to be a sponsor. This is a great opportunity for Duke to avenge the 1999 championship game Final Four loss. Therefore, players like Elton Brand, Lou Alding, Trajan Langdon, and then 2004 again, J.J. Redick and Sheldon Williams and company. So Duke really needs to come through on this for our round ball friends over there. But yeah, looking forward to this game. Now, we're not going to give this away, but let's just tell you this: we're not. Number one, we are not on the coaching staff, and we're not football players, so we can look forward ahead to the Notre Dame game. We'll just let you know this. We have a special guest, as if you can recall, heading into the Clemson game, we were able to talk to Eric McLean from the ACC Network. He's a Clemson alum, very connected to the program there. We've got a whopper of a guest for you the week of Notre Dame. We're not going to tell you who it is because we're going to tease it a little bit. We'll share it on social media eventually. But we've landed a really awesome guest. I would say, guys, it's the most high profile.
It's the biggest one.
Biggest one we've ever had. And so we're looking forward to that conversation.
Josh, it's so big, I'm leaving the country, and I won't
That's
be
right.
a part of the episode.
That's right. Brian's going on vacation, and honestly, we hate it for him. I mean, he is going on a cruise, so, I mean, kudos to him for that. But he's going to miss the week leading up and even the game, not able to be there that day. So, you know.
Well, hopefully this person will live up to my standards. With the interview, I mean, I'm probably going to be put to shame by this person.
Well, this person is much better looking. There's no question about that. I mean,
we'll let the fans decide when it comes out.
I'm pretty sure you're straight.
Yeah, I'm done.
Got much better hair.
Again,
Much better hair.
that's why I'm leaving the country. I just can't take all the ridicule. So
That's right. That's right. Well, we're to the point tonight where we are going to give you our predictions. But before we do give you our predictions on the score, on the winner, and on our uniform combination, we had some folks on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And Brian, let us know who won last week's Pick'em.
fellas, I thought last week was good. This week was even better. We went 3 for 3 on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We each had one person guess the score on the nose. So they're going to be getting some extra swag coming their way. On Twitter, I love this name. Teriyaki Bradshaw. He predicted Duke to win 38-14. On Facebook, Jonathan Huggins, who asked us a question earlier, he predicted Duke to win 38-14. And on Instagram, Ashton Tennis, he predicted Duke to win 38-14. So, guys, you're going to be getting a Section 17 podcast T-shirt. Scott, we still have helmet magnets, sticker helmet magnets.
We do.
Let's throw those in there as well as an extra thank you. And we do this every week. So come Thursday of this week, we'll post let me rephrase that. We will ask you who you think is going to win the game, along with what you think the team is going to win. And whoever gets the closest will win a Section 17 podcast shirt. And if you're like one of these three gentlemen and guess the score on the nose, you get a little something extra.
We'll say the teriyaki name. That's got to be one of the better, better Twitter handles I've seen.
I did a double take. I'm like, Terry Aki. What is he talking? Oh, teriyaki. Okay.
Teriyaki Bradshaw.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hey, Brian, you want to give us the line and over-under?
Okay.
Before we get our predictions.
So it was at 21.5 earlier this afternoon. I just looked. It's back down to 21. So Vegas is toying with some folks. Over-under for the game is right now at 48 points. And something else, a little extra wild card. Duke is averaging 36 points a game. UConn only 15. So with that being said, who wants to go first?
I'll start it out.
Okay.
I got no problems here. Okay, number one, this is an opportunity. Shout out to my guy Jacob Monk. It's an opportunity for Duke to wear the icy whites. They're going to go white lids, white jerseys, white pants. They're going to go blue, Iron D blue, large. Large blue, Iron D. As far as the score prediction, I've got Duke winning this game, obviously. I believe Duke does a little bit more of the same here. I believe the rushing attack is unstoppable. I'm going to go Duke 42, UConn 21. 42-21. I think I may have that may have been the score that I predicted last week, but that's all good. 42-21. 42. It's gonna work one of these weeks. 42-21, Blue Devils.
Hey, I'll go next. And you know what? I'm basically going to straight up copy Josh on the uniforms because I was thinking icy whites as well. So icy whites with a large blue D, very large blue D. As far as the game, UConn has not been able to stop the run. UConn has had trouble with mobile QBs, and as we said earlier in the episode, what does Duke have? One of the best mobile QBs in the ACC and in the country. I think our running game will continue its dominance and be able to run wild on UConn. I do know they did hold FIU to under 100 rushing yards. That being said, I know nothing about FIU, and they may not have a run game worth anything anyways. But as far as the other teams, NC State and Georgia State both went over 200 yards rushing. So I believe I'm going to go Duke 41, UConn 10. 41-10, cry UConn.
I'll go next. So UConn has already done a blue out this season. I think it wasn't against State. It was I think it was FIU. I've got Duke going white lid, white top, blue bottom. I don't see a white out happening there. Big Iron D, big blue Iron D. As far as the score, I agree with everything Josh and Jamie had to say. UConn is averaging giving up 180 rushing yards a game and almost 200 yards passing. They're giving up almost 400 yards total to opposing offenses. So I think all the guys are going to have a day on offense. The score about the same as the other two. I'm going to go Duke 42, UConn 14. And Duke will go 4-0 heading into the big matchup against the Irish. Scott, close us out with the predictions.
Okay, so I got to go with basically what Jamie and Josh said. I think the icy whites, definitely white helmet with the big Iron D. As far as the score, I mean, I'm really and truly hoping that we beat the over-under again like we did last week. Just don't know if we will. I think I'm going to go 38-10. So I think that will put us right at 48, right?
Yeah, so you would push.
Okay. So yeah, why not? I got it right last week. Why not push this week? Just to make all you other people feel better about yourselves.
As a reminder, Scott got it last week.
Yes.
You know.
Hey, you can get all the score predictions you want as long as I'm eating my steak at the end of the season.
Medium rare, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's right. Still
Steak.
bloody.
Steakums from the food line.
Well, listen, this has been a great episode, guys. Thank you once again for all the feedback from the fans. This Blue Devil team is off to a 3-0 start. We're pumped about it. I hope you are. I hope you're getting ready not only to watch this game, UConn, but then obviously that Notre Dame game coming up. And if you've stayed with us through this entire episode, you get to be the first ones to know that we will be doing a giveaway. We have come across from an anonymous donor. We've come across 4 Notre Dame tickets. We will be doing a giveaway, and you could receive 4 free Notre Dame football. We might do 2 and 2, but you could receive at least 2 free Notre Dame Duke football tickets. We will be doing a giveaway on our social media channels. We're going to obviously ask you to do a couple of things in order to put your name in the hat for that. But just keep an eye out on that. We'll make sure we get those out to you. But that's going to be pretty awesome.
Hang on, we got to make this a little bit more difficult for a giveaway. This is the Notre Dame game. We got to think of something good. So we'll come up with something soon.
Well, but it's got to add to our follow list. You know, they got to follow all that good stuff. We'll figure it out. We'll do something good. But we do want to give those away. And so, listen, we do our best, guys. We're people of the people helping people. And so we appreciate your support. We'll get that out and then be looking out for our guests leading up to the Notre Dame game. It's going to be pretty epic. Brian, do we miss anything, guys? Anything?
Are we followed by holy shirts and pants?
We're going to go off on wedding crashers tangents here.
You said people helping people.
The dinner scene. The dinner scene is pretty incredible. The dinner scene is.
I mean, you do use a lot of wedding crasher memes for Todd when you're reaching out to him.
Of course, the painting was a gift, Todd. I'm taking it with me.
No, I think we covered everything. If you're not going up to East Hartford for the game, 3:30 on the CBS Sports Network. I will be on a plane heading down to my vacation. I will try to catch as much of it as possible. But yeah, I was wrong, fellas. I didn't think we'd go a full hour and a half like we've done the first 3 episodes. So kudos to you, the fans. You kept us going with the huge mailbag. We're hoping to see more of your questions next week with the big game against Notre Dame, 7:30 on ABC. Right, fellas? The big ABC. All right, fantastic. But that'll do it for us. Be on the lookout for our giveaway for the Notre Dame tickets. Also, be on the lookout for who our guests will be next week. It's going to be a big one, probably the biggest one in Section 17 recording history. But that's it for us. For Josh Cox, for Scott Medlin, for Jamie Holt, and for producer Justin Sykes, I'm Brian Kennedy, and this has been another episode of the Section 17 podcast.
Now turn the music up.